Hi there, my name is Carlene Shawn from Kids Play Preschool, and I am the chair of the Madison District Childcare Association.
Hi, I'm Sherry Jean from Mother Nature's Preschool and also a member of the Madison District Childcare Association.
We're excited to be celebrating our 30th anniversary as an association this year. We have 70 members with over 300 early childhood educators. That includes everybody from preschools, daycares, out-of-school care, and family day home agencies. We recently had a conference here at the Madison College, and we're excited to bring you the following session. Please enjoy.
My name is Christina Pickles, and we're here to talk about outdoor play in the early years. I had the opportunity to start this program about 5 years ago when I was with the Alberta Council for Environmental Education. So as Tammy mentioned, I've been an environmental educator for 20 years, and I've worked, before 5 years ago, I worked a lot with school-age kids and adults. And then someone said to us one day, the organization I was working with, you know, you're doing nothing for the early years. And we said, yes, you are correct. We aren't doing anything to support getting outdoors and nature connection and the environment in the early years. And so I had an opportunity to lead the development of this program. And I've developed a huge passion for this topic and a huge respect and passion as well for early childhood educators. I've worked with a lot of teachers. I must say, I think I like ECs better. So I think there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to outdoor play. And so today we're going to do a couple different things. What we're not going to do is sit in here for the next hour and a half. That is a terrible idea when we start to talk about outdoor play. We are actually going to go outside. So it's pretty warm out. And so we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to start inside with a couple activities, and then we're going to move outside and just get our hands a little dirty and explore outside. An hour and a half isn't a long time together. It's enough to kind of spark your interest in a couple of things, and then hopefully you will go off on Monday morning and implement some of the things we talk about, or might spark you to have some conversations with your staff, or with your supervisor, or with the parents, or with the children about outdoor play and nature and what that means to them. So I'm just here to spark your interest. Is anyone signed up for my session this afternoon? A couple people? Okay. So there'll be some crossover, but mostly it'll be some new information. So we're gonna start with a quick activity. I'm gonna get you to stand up and come up to the front and pick a photo. Doesn't matter what it is, whatever one that kind of speaks to you, pull that out. So once you have a photo, just take a look at it, ponder it for a second, think about what it is about that photo that you find interesting, that sparked your curiosity. What are the connections you're making between your own experience and the photo that you may have chosen? And talk to your neighbor, find someone else in the room to show your picture to and to talk about your photo. What is it of interest that interests you in that photo? Yeah, what I also like about the picture is the kids have sticks. Ah! I think I'm going to do a whole workshop one day just on sticks, because there is so much emotion attached to sticks, positive and negative, the loss of eyes, and it's just like, it's this terrible weapon. But sticks are in the International Toy Hall of Fame. So, I mean, they are the ultimate loose part, one of the ultimate loose parts. There's so much to do with it. And I think the reason why I start with this activity is that right now around outdoor play, it's not true for everyone, but there's a lot of can'ts and won'ts and don'ts around outdoor play. There's a lot of worry about kids getting hurt or all those sorts of those things. So I think when we see these pictures of children engaging deeply with nature, either imaginative play, risky play, using sticks, climbing trees, it helps us connect to the heart again, because these no's and don'ts and can'ts are in our head. We all, in our hearts, know the value of outdoor play. And most of us probably had some fairly significant play experiences outdoors. And so I think we have to bring it back to that. I can tell you all the facts and figures and research about outdoor play, but if you, in your heart, can't connect with that, you're not going to work with your children outside. So we have to bring it. I think outdoor play is really all about the heart. The research is overwhelmingly in favor of outdoor play. No research has come out that I've found or anyone has showed me that said getting kids outside is a terrible idea. No one has said that. I'm actually tired of that. The research is almost like it's an avalanche of research that people are doing around how positive outdoor play is. And we've lost it, and so we need to start bringing it back. And so that's my mission. Not mission, but helping educators, because we are the gatekeepers, especially for children when they're young. We're the gatekeepers to their outdoor experiences. And a lot of people will say, oh yeah, my kids, when we go camping, we're outside all the time. But that's their kids. When they put on their professional hat and step into the classroom, step into the childcare center, things change. Suddenly you're responsible for other people's children, and there's other things that you need to think about. So I've noticed a very difference between what people do with their own kids versus what they're comfortable doing with the children that they work with. Fair enough. Different duty of care, all that sort of work. But there's such a big difference that we need to figure out as educators, what's our role, and how can we bring outdoor play back? And what is our role in bringing outdoor play back to children? So before we go outside, we are going to start with a little activity just to talk about the whys of outdoor play. So I'm going to quickly go over these, and as I go over them, just think about which one rises to the top for you. So you should all have this piece of paper. It is a resource that anyone can use. I can give you a digital copy of it too. It's good for parents, it's good for bulletin boards, it's good for all sorts of things. But the first one is around nature connection. So time spent in nature allows children to connect to the natural world and helps them build lifelong environmental stewardship. I know accreditation says bring the outdoors in. That's great, but you're bringing something out of context indoors. The only way you can truly connect to nature is by actually going outdoors. So that nature connection is a really big piece of why we need to get outdoors. The next one is about community and sense of place. Exploring their neighborhood helps children develop a sense of place and feel part of a safe and welcoming community. The best place to meet your neighbors is to actually go out your door and walk around, or go out of the center and walk around the neighborhood and get to know who's there. This sense of place and feeling a sense of belonging is a huge part of children's self-esteem. Sense of belonging is huge when it comes to them feeling a part of something. It's really essential to us as humans, and outdoor play is a great place for children to start to develop that sense of place and that they belong somewhere. Physical activity. This is, a lot of people when they say, I gotta get those kids outside because they're gonna run off that energy and they'll sleep better, all those sorts of things. We are more active when we go outside. So that idea of, and I'll go a bit more into the research after the next piece here, but children are just simply more active outside, and we are not doing our children a great service right now when it comes to physical activity. Participation just gave us I think a D- for physical activity with our children in Canada. Every year it's been horrid, actually. So this year they focused on the connection between physical activity and our mental health. In 2015, they focused on the benefits of outdoor play to physical activity. So physical activity, you can be big outside. There's so many things you can only do outside. You can run, you can climb, you can, all those sorts of things. It's the best environment for those activities. And finally, outdoor natural spaces provide stimulating learning environments that help children learn, sparking their natural curiosity as they explore, question, and experiment. If you're looking at emergent curriculum, or I know there's a session later this afternoon on inquiry-based learning, the outdoors is a really great place to do that because the environment's always changing. Suddenly there's a puddle. There's different birds right now. The insects are starting to come out. There's all these things that happen outdoors that spark children's curiosity. And so the outdoors is a really great place to look at that. All right, so of these four, which one, I know they're all important and they're all connected, which one rises to the top for you? When you think, I've got to get these children outside, what is your why? Of these four reasons, which one means the most to you? When we first started this program, we talked mostly about nature connection and physical activity because those were the people that were involved at the very beginning. But then as we started to talk to educators, I've probably talked to 600 educators over the last 5 years, Sense of community came up again and again and again. If we don't feel safe in our community, then we don't go out to play. So it's really important that we do. That's what you were saying. Yeah, does anyone have any comments about any of these 4 reasons that you discussed? Yeah.
Just to add on the sense of place and community. I think the first thing that we have is the sense of being safe, because that's where freedom comes in. And if we don't have freedom, we cannot go outside and enjoy outside.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, I'm not going to go totally into some of the sort of changes in society, but one of them is that parents are afraid. We're scared. Educators are scared. We're scared of getting sued. We're scared of liability. We're scared of our children being kidnapped. We're scared. And so you're right. If we don't feel safe, we don't get the freedom to explore. And my daughter is almost 5, and I let her, it was a big one last week, ride around the block by herself, which in our neighborhood, one of the ends of the block doesn't have a sidewalk, and one of the ends goes around like a fairly busy road. It was terrifying to let her do that. And on her second round around the block, someone looked at her and wagged their finger at her. And she came back, and she wasn't sad, but she was like, Mama, someone wagged their finger at me, and she didn't want to go around the block again. So she didn't feel safe. I know that woman was probably looking out for her, but instead of supporting her in sort of her exploration, she got her finger wagged at her. So I've kind of started to rethink, like personally, like, is she ready for this yet? Is she ready to do what I let her do? It's an interesting conversation, and I think people with older kids may be further down that road. I'm just entering into it, and it's like, yeah, it's scary. But it's so important. If we can't let them go, that's kind of our job. Anyway, so a couple little pieces of research around the different reasons. So this idea around nature connection. Again, like I said, nature, you can only really connect to nature when you actually get outside. There's a woman, Louise Challa, she did a study. She wanted to know people who had a strong environmental ethic, what made them who they were? Why did they care so much about the environment? Why were they strong stewards? And so she asked a variety of questions, and they all had 2 things in common. The first is that they all had outdoor play experiences as children. Check. They were allowed to run free, explore. The second piece, which I think is important for educators, is they all had a significant adult in their lives to share it with. And yes, children need to be sent off on their own, but they also need that modeling from an important adult in their life, whether it's their parents, whether it's a teacher, whether it's an auntie, whether it's a grandma. They need that as well. So those were the two things that led these particular people to be strong environmental stewards, is access to outdoor play in nature and an adult. And I mean, that goes down to the importance of modeling. So if we can model that connection and that curiosity when we're outside, we don't need to know the names of the birds. We don't need to know the names of things. We just need to get excited about it. We just need to, when they bring you the worm, not to cringe. When they bring you the spider or whatever your thing is, my thing is snakes. I appreciate the role of snakes in the ecosystem. That's awesome. I'm glad they're out there, but I won't hold one, I won't touch them. Spiders fine, worms fine, everything else is fine. So whatever your thing is, get over it. I'm not over my snake thing yet, but I'm working on it. So that nature connection, really important to and the other thing to think about with nature connection and the environment is that there's some pretty heavy issues in the world right now. And our job as early childhood educators is nature connection. Children, as with all the big issues in the world, don't need to be saddled with them when they're 3, 4, 5 years old. They just need to be able to develop a relationship. So it's about a relationship with nature. It's about being able to touch and feel and roll around with and connect with the natural world. They don't need to know the names of the birds. They need to be a bird. So if they're interested in birds, we don't say that's a robin. We bring out the cardboard, we make wings, and we fly around the playground. We don't need to know the names of birds. It might lead to that, but kids need to be the bird first. And they have the ability to do that. Adults, we've moved on from that stage, but kids connect when they can be the thing, when they can see themselves in that natural animal, in that plant, whatever that is. So our job in the early years is nature connection. And I think we've done a really good job of telling kids, don't touch, don't climb, don't around nature. We need some areas where we're allowed to say, yes, break that stick. Yes, maybe squish that ant, but we'll talk about it after. Those types of things. So nature connection. And we talked about the sense of place and community is really foundational. There's so much work around that physical activity and literacy. They did a study, again, studies that show us what we already know. They put pedometers on preschool children. Guess what happened when they went outside? They got way more. Yeah, they were twice as active. So they didn't do anything special to the outdoor environment. They took the children outside, and they were twice as active. So if we're just looking to get kids more active, the outdoors is a perfect place to do that. They're making some really cool connections between our physical health and well-being and nature. So evergreen trees release chemicals into the air that are calming to our nervous systems. So yeah, it's amazing. And it totally makes sense. We evolved, we were outdoor beings. It's only been fairly recently that we've kind of like enclosed ourselves in these four walls. Most of our lives as humans have been outdoors. So it only makes sense that we developed in harmony with the natural world. So things like that. So people also say that some of those children that are challenged in the four walls, you take them outdoors and they're different kids. Mm-hmm. Is it the chemicals in the air that the trees are releasing, or is it the fact that they can then be big, they can be who they really are outdoors? Really cool things around hospital patients who can see a tree heal faster than ones who can't. So they did an experiment, poor people that only could look at the parking lot. But people who's had a view of the parking lot took longer to heal than people who could see a tree outside their window. So it's just speaking to that deep connection between us and nature and our physical health and well-being. So yeah, there's so much work around, also adding, someone did a recent study around adding natural elements to the play space reduced depressive symptoms in young children. So they had a couple kids in this program who did things like pace the fence, kind of like a caged lion. And that wasn't a healthy activity for that kid to be doing. So they added some natural elements, and the kid was more engaged, and those sort of, those behaviors disappeared as soon as there was nature added to the outdoor space. So I could go on and on. There's so much, it's like I said, it's overwhelming how much information there is. One last thing about curiosity and learning. This afternoon we'll get, if you're with me this afternoon, we'll talk more about the curiosity cycle. But this is a recent study out of what they did. I love these ones that they pull together all the different studies that have done little studies, and they make it into a meta-study. So what they did is they wanted to look at all the different research into nature exposure and learning. And so these were all the different types of nature exposure articles that they looked at, everything from forest schools to outdoor classrooms to gardens, animal-based, whatever, all those sorts of things. And then they looked at what were the learning outcomes, how did children do better? And if you just jump over to this side, increased retention of subject matter if the learning happened outdoors, higher standardized test scores if that's a measure of success, but whatever, you need something to measure. Better reading, math, writing skills, and higher graduation rates from experiences in nature. And I think in the early years, we really need to consider these personal development pieces, better leadership skills, better communication skills, more resilience, critical thinking, spatial skills were all improved by doing learning outside. And we already talked about this piece, better environmental behaviors and connection to nature. So now there's been enough research to show that learning outside is good for kids. And this is a lot of school-based work, but there's also some preschool and daycare work in there too. Anyone have any questions or comments or personal observations from their experiences taking children outside?
I find I'm more relaxed when we're outside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
my life is better when we're outside because it's quieter.
It's all, yeah, it's not just about the
yeah, it's
children.
all about me.
It's about us too.
It's about me. It's policy needs to get outside.
I've been reflecting on how hard it is to get kids outside, just like the transition time, right? Getting dressed and all those things. And I was like, and then I threatened, like, we're not going outside if you don't. And then when we get outside, it's so magical.
And what I've been noticing in the last couple of years, just recently this year, but there's some children who do not want to go outside, and that just, I've never ever come across that until the last few years.
Yeah.
They don't want to go outside, they want to stay in.
Even their house, they don't go outside.
So it's important to get them out there.
Run the
Yeah.
house, into the garage,
To school and they come in.
And yet a question,
We've noticed there's been a difference between the kids in our daycare, like since we've been able to go outside, so it's not as cold, and we're stuck indoors and trying to figure out things to do and messy play and whatnot, but just going outside and playing in the rocks or playing with sticks or jumping off things, like there's a big difference in their behavior and in ours. Like, at least for me, I know I have more patience.
Yeah.
I know that I have more ideas and more fun games to play, just being able to go outside and get the fresh air rather than being in the classroom.
Cool. And the next step is winter. We must figure out winter. Because I think, there are times when it's too cold to go outside, but I think we use it as a constant excuse for not getting outside. And there are some ways that people are coming up with to kind of, even if it is minus 20 even, or 25, finding out ways to kind of stay warm and all those sorts of things. But yeah, it makes a huge difference for everyone to get outside. And it's awesome to see those observations and to start sharing that with parents too. I'm sure they notice, but you're right, kids don't, like someone was mentioning that we have garages attached to our houses, so kids don't often actually even get to go outside, even to walk to the car. So I think, I've heard some educators say, well, it's too dangerous for me to take the kids outside to do these things. It's up to the parents to do that. I'm like, well, the parents aren't doing it either. So there is a really important role for early childhood educators in this outdoor play movement. Grab your stuff. I can't lock this room, so if you have anything, I don't know, I know we all have lots of money in our wallets. We'll just meet outside this door. It's about just a 2-minute walk to where we're going. So I like this spot a little better. The trees have branches. There's so many little possibilities in that little stand of trees. I think when we talk about nature connection, we seem to think we must go to the mountains or we must go to untouched wilderness. Really, we just need a couple of trees and we need to let the grass grow. And we need to do these things, little things. We don't need to build a fancy nature playground. Those are wonderful. But if we can just do some simple things like don't cut the branches so the kids can't engage with the tree, let the grass grow so they have other places to hide and bugs to explore, all those sorts of things. So the one hazard in this location, if you were to bring kids here and if they knew the area, the coulee is right there. There's a precipitous drop. So I think, precipitous drop. Hopefully I use that properly. So when you are looking at an outdoor space, we won't go into depth into risk-benefit assessment, but you probably have your fenced yard that you must deal with. And if you take the kids out, there are some things to consider. Places with some clear boundaries are really good. Knowing where the big hazard is, those types of things are important to know. So we're going to start. Whenever we arrive at a new spot, even I guess a new day, doesn't really matter, it's new, we need to give children opportunities to explore, and adults need that too. We walked here, we were chatting, we weren't necessarily looking really closely, so simple activities to help us slow down and look a bit closer at the world around us. So you're each going to get a white cue card, and your job is to make a palette. It's a bit challenging this time of year. A palette of colors. So take either your fingernail or a rock and just do some smears. See how many different colored smears you can make on your palette today. So go out and explore and see how many colors you can bring back. So the purpose of doing an activity like this is to help people slow down, whether they're adults or children, and really start to observe the world around them. It helps them to start to dig in the dirt and to look a bit closer so they can get to know the area a bit better and what's starting to grow and what's out there. So just any sort of activity that helps people slow down and look at the world a bit closer is really important when you're going to a new area and to help build connection with that spot.
That's great.
So this time of year is a bit challenging, but this is the type of activity that you could do all different times of year. Imagine if the children had a little nature journal and they kept track of what colors they found throughout the year just doing this simple activity. This sort of thing could lead into a conversation about the next step might to bring the paints outside or to make natural pigments. When the dandelions come out, start doing that. Yeah. Nice. So this is activities like this. Again, they help us slow down and look, but they could be springboards into all sorts of different things if the children really get into this. Other ways to do this, where's my paint chips? Just going to the paint store and get so many different colors, give kids one of these, and sometimes they're super challenging. Children are very good at this. It becomes a bit of a competition. It also gets them moving when they first go outside, especially if it's a little chilly or in the winter. Activities that get them moving first thing when they get outside is a really good thing to do. So colors is a good thing. Someone mentioned smells, collecting smells when you're outside in different ways. So one thing you could do that with, I know film canisters don't exist, so you need some sort of equivalent to the old school film canister. You put a little cotton ball with some water on it, and you smush up pine needles or whatever, and you put in, just having that little bit of water sort of accentuates the smell, so kids can smell it and then go find it, so they can collect smells. I mean, this could lead into, and then you can let them do it with their friends. Put a smell in there, and then their friends have to find the smell. This could lead to poo and other things, but whatever, that's exploring our environment. You never know where kids are going to go. My mind went there, so I'm sure it's not that hard for 4-year-olds to go there either. What about collecting textures outside? So either doing rubbings or clay. I'm becoming a big fan of clay outside, not Play-Doh, but actual clay, because it is a natural material. But using clay to collect different types of textures, so press it into the tree or the bench, whatever, to get different textures. So clay is a fabulous tool to use outside. Have you done any other activities that kind of help children slow down and look at the world around them and explore it? Any other sort of versions of this that you've done?
Drawing the clouds.
Oh yeah.
Like scavenger hunts too. They like scavenger hunts.
Yeah, watching scavenger hunts are good ones too. Again, some children can't read when they're young, but I really like this. Some of the words on this scavenger hunt are really good because it's more than just find a rock. It's find a plant that is shaded by a plant that is shaded by a plant. A plant that smells nice. Something that you think is interesting. Something that is changing back into soil. So if you're looking at things that are decomposing, or just be a bit creative in how you think of what a scavenger hunt could be. And a scavenger hunt is also a great way to gather things. A friend of mine, someone was they were remarking that when they take kids outside, they're running and I can't keep them contained. And my friend Beverly's, well, a good way to help children slow down as well when you're out there is to give them a bag. Give them a bag and allow them to pick stuff up and collect the treasures as they go. You may not get to your destination because it's going to take forever, but they'll have slowed down and looked and just filled their bag full of treasures. And then when you get to your spot, suddenly you have a pile of loose parts that you can play with, or you suddenly have things you can sort. Oh, there's math. You have things you can sort by color and shape and size. And so just giving kids a chance to slow down and collect stuff. It's a sort of a primal need of people to be hunters and gatherers. So build on that sort of need of children and in different ways outside. All right, anyone have any questions or comments before our next activity? I don't like the word activity, but we'll get into that this afternoon. Our next thing we're going to do is we have all these things. Loose parts. Is anyone using loose parts in their outdoor play spaces? Yes, no, maybe so? Some? I am a big fan of loose parts. Let us stop building expensive playgrounds and just provide more loose parts. But that's a rant for maybe another day. So loose parts are an amazing opportunity, open-ended materials that can be anything. And I think they grow with the children, they allow them to build their own environments. So many things you can do with loose parts, or they can do with loose parts. So this is a huge variety of things from different locations, but your challenge is to work in groups of 4 or 5, make a group. I only have 7 sheets, but you are to build a fort. So using the loose parts, using a sheet, whatever you want, go build a fort. So loose parts are open-ended materials that can be anything. So an example would be a stick, or a board, or rocks. Anything that doesn't have a specific play purpose is called a loose part. And a loose part offers so many opportunities for children to do open-ended play. So right now everyone is building a fort. So they're using the loose parts that we have here to work as groups and to build a fort. So they're using their imaginations, teamwork, and creativity to build a fort using loose parts. When you think of, let's say, a truck is used as a particular type of toy that moves things from one place to another, or you vroom around. Loose parts they could be anything. So a stick could be a doll, a rock could be a dinosaur egg. So loose parts really build on children's creativity and allows them to be creative and resilient in their play. This is important because creativity is essential for their future schooling. We need more creative solutions to some of the world's problems. So I think starting kids young and developing that creativity muscle is essential.
Thank you for watching the previous session. I hope you enjoyed it. Madison District Childcare Association has been active for the past 30 years. We have supported the early childhood community by providing workshops, creating partnerships with various agencies. If you'd like more information, you can find us at www.mhdcca.com. Thanks for watching.